said, my name is Jack Hunter Schultz. I'm an emergency medicine resident. I think this talk is perfectly timed for today, looking at the rest of the agenda. This talk will be a little bit different. This is going to be more high level, less granular. There's not going to be a single graph in this talk. Every single word is going to be easily understandable. I try to keep everything within 3 syllables. But it's supposed to be provocative, get you thinking, maybe like about your own research or what you're interested in global health, and just to kind of remember some of the fundamentals and how multifaceted some of these issues are, and that they need multifaceted solutions. So this talk is it's supposed to be interactive as well. So please just raise a hand, and if you have any questions as we go, feel free. All right. So
is it working? I gave you control, but
let's see.
Mouse works, I think.
The mouse works.
Should.
There we go. Yeah. Needed some
A
more.
little slow.
Yeah.
I have no disclosures at all. I'm a resident. My organization that I run, the Posse Opportunity Society, there's no U of A affiliation. So the big theme, like I said, for this is kind of going back to fundamentals. So social determinants of health, and with it being International Development Week, I think it's a good time to focus on this. So these are the non-medical factors that influence health outcomes. And like according to the WHO, there's been numerous studies that suggest that about 30 to 55% of all health outcomes are based off of social determinants for health and not actual health delivery. And I think sometimes this is even underestimated because your whole budget that goes into healthcare delivery is all based off of how much revenue a country can make for itself. So I think really focusing on social determinants of health is where we can see a lot of health impact. And then just something for you to kind of scope, these are some of the social determinants of health that the WHO really focuses on. And these ones right in here on this left side, this is what our organization really looks at and what we think really can drive health change. So I think it's really important to understand like where your presenter is coming from and their background and biases. And this is also a little bit of a lit review for how our project got started and some of the thinking that I had and my organization had for why we do what we do. And I should just briefly mention that the Posse Opportunity Society, we focus on vocational training for young disadvantaged populations, primarily women, to kind of help drive health outcomes. So for my background bias, I dabbled as a financial analyst in another world. I think this gave me a lot of appreciation for how much economics drive just quality of life throughout the world. So one of the big things that we always try to remember is basically it comes down to scarcity of resources. There's so many wonderful projects that are out there, so many wonderful ideas that we should be spending more money on social services. But we always have to kind of think, where do you propose that we cut this money from? So like kind of the big thing that we always think about is where can we best invest our money to get the best outcomes? And then secondly, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it definitely buys you opportunity. So money in the pockets of the people we're trying to help out in a global context really influences quality of life and some of their outcomes there. Secondly, global development background. So about 10 years, I've been doing global development in Africa. Worked with Amani Children Homes, that's kind of getting kids off the street and into education, back into family units. And then with the Posse Opportunity Society, I've been with them since 2016 as a director, and then leading them for the last 2 years. And then some of the big things that I learned from this is just the insecurity of livelihoods that are affected by poverty. So there's about 1,000 different things that can kind of grab you by the ankles and pull you into the depths. So just because you're providing one solution for them, there's still about 10 other things that can affect somebody and bring them back down to ground zero. The second one being the barriers faced by those in poverty. So the poverty trap. So if you're developing, programs and stuff like that, you might have the best program to develop education, but if they can't find childcare, they're not going to show up. If they don't have any food in the belly for them or their kids, they're not going to show up for your education delivery. They're going to go out there and try and find that food one way or another. So just trying to think of all these barriers that are faced by people in poverty, and that you might think that you have this wonderful solution, but you have to really think about the whole aspect of the person you're trying to help. And then this informs that bottom up is absolutely, I think, the key to developing good project work, especially in the global environment, because we're all living, at least us here, we're all living in Canada, and we're not living, we're helping these people globally. So they understand their context the best, they understand their issues the best, and they can provide the best, most holistic solutions for their own issues. So really trusting them for knowing, for identifying the issues and providing some of the solutions. So working with them to design your project is much better than offering solutions. Next part of my background bias, global health wise, like Dr. Lane was saying, I've done some medicine in Eastern and Southern Africa. So probably the biggest experience is working in a hospital in southwestern Uganda here, Kambuga Hospital. It's a rural hospital. And trying to learn the most I could about kind of delivering what healthcare is about in kind of areas like that. And that gained even more of an appreciation for social determinants of health. So even if you had the best types of healthcare delivery, if the patient can't afford your antibiotics or your x-rays or your investigations, you can't really do much about it. So you can be the best diagnostician ever, you can have all the answers for them, but it still comes down to whether the patient has enough money in the pocket to be able to actually afford the solutions. The second part, did some research as well, was one of the apprentices under Dr. Michael Hawks, who's, I know, a formidable force through the U of A global health environment. I know he's no longer working here, but gained a big appreciation for research and how it derives, at least understanding the issues. So we try to do that as much as possible, as have evidence be kind of drive our projects. And then the big thing I learned, especially from this project here, we looked at why Ebola cannot get controlled in the DRC. This was back in 2018, and it compared the outbreaks in the DRC compared to outbreaks in Western Africa during the 2014 Ebola epidemic. And it didn't matter that, in 2018, there was the advent of the Ebola vaccine that could really help control it. But the biggest issue that they were finding was similar to the 2014 outbreaks, was that people just didn't trust the WHO, they didn't trust MSF, they didn't trust the international doctors. And the way that the 2014 epidemic kind of got under control is that they learned to bring in the local leaders within those communities, and they got the local leaders to talk to the people and be able to kind of push the public health messaging. And that was the main reason that it got adopted. So that really helped pushes the point that you really, really need to build that trust with the people that you're trying to help out, or get people who your beneficiaries, you really need to be able to get people that they trust to kind of give the public health message that you want. And then did one other project that was based off ceramic water filters in Kenya as well. And that's kind of not a lot of big lessons learned there, but it was something that helped me understand kind of the area that we work in now, which is Nairobi. And then the last background and bias I have here is my time in emergency medicine and how it helped shape our thinking for how we address things. So here, I'll just play this here. It's a little bit hyperbolic, but I think it captures emergency medicine in a nutshell.
Let's go. Hey, thanks for calling me back. I got a consult for you. It's an easy one. This one's pretty straightforward. I got an interesting patient for you. This one's a little tough. Look, I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what's going on here. Hey, surgery. Yeah, classic right lower quadrant pain. We're getting a CT scan. Just wanted to give you a heads up. No, we don't have the CT scan yet. I'm calling you because I got a trauma coming in 2 minutes. Well, either I can call you now or I can wait 45 minutes after the scan. When would you prefer to yell at me? Dermatology. It's emergency medicine. Yeah, apparently you take call at this hospital. No, it's not a prank call. Sir, I'm sorry I paged you after you already got home and took your pants off. In the future, I'll make sure we don't have any cardiovascular emergencies during your no pants time. I checked the vision and did a fluorescein exam. I'm not sure what else you want from me. I'm sorry I didn't get a detailed family history for you. Yeah, people are dying around here, so. We did an ultrasound.
Yeah, this can go on, but I think Dr. Lane, it's somewhat accurate for what we do. But the biggest things I kind of want to highlight here is emergency medicine really focuses on the ABCs, or airway, breathing, circulation. And it's just a stepwise algorithmic way of addressing the areas that need intervening the most. So for our project work, basically, there's no point focusing on, again, delivering this education unless people have food in their stomachs because they can't concentrate. There's no point having post-secondary education opportunities for them if they're not graduating high school or junior high. So just kind of a prioritized ABCs for addressing basic fundamental needs of whoever you're trying to help, and always doing that kind of stepwise order. And then the last part is collaboration is key. There's no point trying to be an expert in everything and to not being afraid to ask for specialist help. There's a lot of people in the global health world or the global development world that are all trying to do a lot of really good things that are in silos. So one of our big things is we always trying to ask for help and bring in as many parties as possible. So with all that said, I should probably get to some like the programming that we do. First, this is where we operate. It's an informal settlement in Nairobi called Mathari. This is a very accurate representation of what it looks like. It's informal housing. People do not own the land that they're living on. It's frequently hit with floods that will take out some of the least secure houses, and there's kind of different parts to it, different classes to it. There's some areas that, like in these buildings here, that are a little bit better, and different areas that are better, but a lot of these people have very insecure homes and insecure jobs, and there's an upwards of 77% unemployment rate within the informal settlements in Nairobi. So this is the issue that we face as an Foster Opportunity Society. So we focus on vocational training, and we focus on marginalized populations, and this was the problem that we looked at that we wanted to try and help solve. So in understanding it and like looking at common issues that affect gender inequality, and specifically in Kenya, there's some big issues. So there's an 80% dropout rate for school for girls. This concept of sextortion, it might be a new term for you, but basically it's young girls or women who cannot afford things and basic necessities in life, or what it may be, and basically have to enter into relationships for people to pay for it, and with that becomes expectations of sex, and that can lead to things like teenage pregnancy or other unwanted pregnancies. So 1 in 5 teenagers in Kenya are affected by teenage pregnancy. It's a very patriarchal society, and boys' education is prioritized. So if there's an option of keeping one child in school, they'll tend to prioritize the boy because they think there's more earning potential there. There's a 23% rate of females being married in their teens. And there's a huge proportion of the female population that's unskilled and uneducated. There's a lot of unwanted pregnancies even when you get out of that teenage years. And then there's a lot of gender-based violence. And gender-based violence, we take a big broad term with that, not just physical, not just sexual, but also financial. So not being able to kind of choose the things that they want to spend their money on, or having that kind of held over their head when they need or ask for money for the home. So I'm going to play another video here. So those are all big concepts, and they all could have a targeted intervention that's just designed just on one of these. Each one of these is huge issues that go into gender inequality. And they all could have 10 solutions to help solve it. But we wanted to really be able to try and understand maybe if we could connect these a little bit better and understand them through a local context. So instead of me telling you about that, I'm going to play a video that our local partner name is, they go by the name of Build and Align Community Initiatives, and it's led by a woman named Clarice Halanga. She's an exceptional woman who's doing a lot of amazing work down there. So she's going to explain the local context behind it, as well as one of our participants of our program. So hopefully you guys can all hear this. It might be a bit quiet, but let's see.
When you are a woman, you are the one to give birth, you are the one to go for menstruation. And if you can't afford sanitary towel, you will look for shortcuts, and that shortcut will lead you to pregnancy. When you get pregnant, you drop out of school. You don't have papers to search for a job. Now you are at home. That leads to poverty.
When you don't have food, you don't have money, you won't tell me that you'll go to school to learn, because the brain is not comfortable. so you won't learn. But when there's something on the stomach, you see your physical, financial, and physiological problems are all solved, then you are very okay. But when you have nothing to do, nothing to look at, then definitely you drop out of school. And when you drop out of school, then there's this early marriages, like whatever we encounter. There's these early pregnancies, and when you are pregnant and you're not married, and you are looking for income to feed your kid that you have got outside school and outside marriage, then you have very many kids because you are looking for that food to feed that kid.
All right, so I apologize a little bit for the audio, but if I could just kind of summarize what they're saying and how we were able to link this all together. The biggest thing that we saw, there's two big issues. One is this 80% school dropout rate, and trying to understand what really drives this dropout rate. And part of it is due to the teenage pregnancies. Part of it's due to household poverty and instability. Part of it's the boys' education prioritized over girls. And then a lot of this teenage marriage. So we looked at all of that stuff and what this 80% school dropout rate led to. And that was the unskilled and uneducated females. So women who weren't able to make an income for themselves. And when they have these, when they drop out and they don't have a way to make income, they're reliant on a relationship for financial support. So they get that sextortion. Maybe they already have a kid from a teenage pregnancy, maybe they don't, but this usually leads to having kids. And once they have kids, then the opportunity to pursue education goes way down. The opportunity to have employment goes way down. And it further puts that reliance on the relationship for their financial support. And with that becomes very unhealthy, imbalanced power differentials within the home. They get to like more and more pregnancies, they get forced into marriage, and then those with the power differentials, you get the gender-based violence. And then with all those things together, that leads more into this household poverty and instability and that intergenerational poverty trap. So, and that leads right back into that school dropout rate. So we looked as an organization, and when we talked to the local partners and everyone down there, we saw like there's a lot of programs that are addressing individual facets of it, but we asked them, where do you need the help the most? And basically they need help in providing ways for women to make income. Once we focus on that and women have income, then they're able to really gain a lot of independence in their life. They're able to make the decisions. They're not reliant on a man anymore. So they need to leave a relationship. They need to leave unsafe home. They have the opportunity to do so. They're able to look after their kids, and they're able to also become more of a role model in the community. So these were all things that were kind of told to us, and this is where we wanted to design some of the programming behind it. We thought this would be able to help make more stable homes. So then we'd be able to get rid of this influence and keep kids in school. And then that would also help decrease this intergenerational poverty trap. So that's kind of the basis and the motivation behind some of the programming, and then how we developed it. Trying to take some of the background biases I had. This is all co-developed with local leaders. So this is all very influenced by the local leaders in the group, and they talked to the community and asked what they wanted and what they needed. And we designed a vocational program based around that. I'll go a little bit more into that. The program's all female-led for females, so increasing the amount of female role models within the community. And then it's all about capacity building and sustainability focus. So our job with NAFASI was to provide support wherever we could provide. So some of the stuff that we did was provide buildings or a building for them so they could to hold their workshops, equipment, and then just the links and resources, whether that's personnel or equipment, to carry out a vocational training curriculum. So a little bit more about the vocational skills program that we do. So all the facilitators are local and female, so it's very much done by a local lens. All the skills that the women on the ground decided that we should train are here. So there's 3 that we focus on: hairstyling, tailoring, and then soap and cleaning product manufacturing. Very specifically, those 3 were chosen because they're employable within the informal settlement. They don't have to go outside the informal settlement to look for employment. They can be ran out of their own home, so it needs limited infrastructure to actually have a business, but they can also be scaled up to a more formal business. And then And then lastly, these were just skills that within the women organizations that they knew that they had expertise in, and were able to have the capacity to train on these. So we wanted to make this program holistic as possible. So we also do the business skills program. So there's 3 prongs to this, and it's all based off of the availability the women have to attend classes. So a lot of what the training we do is to local business leaders, people who grew up in Mathari, and then we're very lucky to have a CPA on our team who's both Canadian and Kenyan trained, who splits her time between the two countries, and she provides a lot of the training for us. And then we also have a partnership with the UBC, University of British Columbia LIFT program. So they do some teaching once a week for a 3-month course. It's hybrid, so they do virtual teaching online. And you can see just here some of the training that's done by some of their top business students. And then they also will do the in-person stuff that's local through local facilitators and local grads of that program, as well as asynchronous training through modules. And then for the people who do really, really well and they want to pursue more advanced businesses, there's extra training for them through 4G Capital to get access to the microfinancing program. So one other thing that we're pretty proud about our partnership, and we wouldn't be able to, or our program, we wouldn't be able to do this unless we listen to our partners, is and build the trust with them, is to this kind of ABC's approach and eliminating barriers to people being successful in our program. So the first thing is actually getting people to attend your program. A lot of people sign up, but the attendance rate for these type of programs typically are quite poor. There's a lot of reasons for people to stop showing up, but we offer free daycare. So for all the single moms out there, they can come in and they don't have to worry about trying to find daycare for their kids. But then they know that their kids are nice and close too, so it provides peace of mind for them. There's a meal for the trainee and the children as well. So everyone's fed when they're learning, and it gives them more incentive to come. And then we also will pay for specialized daycare for any children with special needs, so autism or anything else that our daycare is not able to have a specialized training in. Then there's the next barrier thing is belief in self. So you can imagine in a very patriarchal society, women are kind of told that they're less valuable from pretty much the age that they're born. So there's a lot of we focus, and our local partners focus a lot on workshops, and it's all women led, all women facilitated, and they get kind of incorporated into this great ecosystem where there's a lot of support. And these workshops are based off of there's teachings on gender-based violence, reproductive rights, and legal rights, and they're all connected to other organizations that can provide more specialized care in these topics. And then the last part that we want to eliminate is the barriers post-graduation. So there's a lot of these programs, they do a lot of really good work. They provide their intervention, and then they just kind of let people go off into society and try to do their best with it. But there's not a lot of follow-up, and there's not a lot of support post-graduation. So this is a key tenet of our program, is trying to follow anyone that we train, try and follow them throughout their whole journey. So some of the big things that we do for them is get them into work attachments. So they have our graduates get like a 1-month work attachment, so they learn on the job skills, but they also have a link to get hired into the community after. We give them a business startup kit, so they're able to start making their products, whether it's tailoring or hairstyling or soap, right after they graduate. We just are launching our microfinancing program this year, and that's going to be huge for kind of building on to the next step of business development. Then we make introduction to them into unions and associations within the local community. So the big one we have is with the hairstyling association. So they get implemented into that. There's a big group chat, and then it gives them opportunities like here where they can get access to like interviews and other job opportunities that they just don't have a link in. With RE and other informal settlements, they really work as like kind of a siloed environment. So it's kind of connected them to outside environments that where some other job opportunities can be. And the last thing we do, this is our workshop here, is for anyone who graduates, and if home's not safe for them, there's a safe place where they can use our equipment to manufacture their tailoring goods or their soap and cleaning products after. So some of our outcomes, this is the most research-based slide of the whole on my whole deck, but we trained 120 or 110 women last year. Last year was the first full year program that we did. They had minimal to no formal income before this, and we're going to train another 110 women in 2025. It took only about 5 months for the graduates to earn enough money on average to cover the cost of their program participation. So we took that as a huge success, because these are women who also are just starting to build up their clientele, whether it's tailoring or whether it's hairstyling, and it only took them 5 months to kind of earn back that cost. So everything from that 5 month mark onwards is gravy and good return on investment from our point of view. For some of the other kind of areas that we'd like to track, we don't have the ethics to track the number of pregnancies, GBV events, children's school dropouts, etc. But our organization is very closely tied with the local partnerships, and there's been the participants are reporting significant improvements in this year. And the one thing that we don't really have a research metric to track on it, but just the amount of confidence that they have now to have these skills behind them, to say that they have a business that they run, and to be looked at as like kind of a role model and feel like they have more purpose is huge. The fact that they're able to spend money and to clothe their kids and feed their kids, the self-confidence improvement is really, really huge. And then the last thing from a sustainability point of view, is every cohort of students that we are training, we're training the future trainers, the community role models who are committed to passing on their skills to other vulnerable women in the community. So we see this as a very sustainable program that if for any reason we are ever going to fold, this will always be something that they can hold with them. So the next steps from our point of view for what we want to do, we're launching the microfinance program in the next month or so. We want to expand our programming. Right now we focus on 3 core skills. There is a want to do more STEM. We just don't have the connections in the community yet, and we have to figure out future employment pipelines if we do train more women in STEM fields. We want to expand into more informal settlements within Nairobi. There's about 5 or 6 big ones there that have this very similar needs as Mathari, and we want to keep improving the pipeline to jobs, and that just all comes through just relationship development. This is a huge key part that's going to be a focus for us, is developing a male engagement and education program. Right now, all of our programs are 100% women trainees. There are organizations that are switching to more of an 80-20 rule, where they do 20% male trainees, and the thought is men are obviously a big part of society and community, and you need them on board. They need to hear the same messaging that we're giving the women. They need to hear all the same things, and we don't want to create there's a little bit of an us versus them narrative that happens, and getting people on the same page. Organizations that have kind of developed this kind of including more men into their women empowerment programs have seen a lot more success in community uptake of their programs. And then we're going to switch gears a little bit and open up a separate part of our program. So this March, we're launching a program in improving first response training in Mathari with the Emergency Foundation of Kenya, which is a little bit more into my kind of academic wheelhouse. So we're excited about that. Lastly, just for conclusions, I know we have a lot of researchers in the crowd, so I just want to kind of implore that social determinants of health are equally, if not more important than natural health care delivery. And sometimes within research, we can think a little bit maybe more about simultaneously addressing these social determinants of health instead of just accounting for them into studies. And then this might help provide more informed research results. And then just a reminder that the target population knows best, to always engage them in program development, and then also empower them, but with as minimal restrictions as possible. Further, again, for the researchers, like when you're applying for grants and stuff, the least amount of restrictions, the better. You know where you want to spend your money. You don't want somebody to tell you where exactly you want to spend your money. It's the same, I think, for the target population that you're trying to help. Getting money in their pockets, they know how best to help themselves. And then lastly, just building trust with your local partners is huge. Not only can you help out more, but it's the only way to really truly know what's going on the ground without kind of getting a sugar-coated version of it. So this was huge for us to be able to really address all the issues, is to have our partners be very comfortable with sharing all their issues with us. Sorry, this is the last one, but collaboration is key. Don't reinvent the wheel or waste time duplicating effort. Try to engage as many people as possible so we can all tug on the rope in the same direction. And here's just our graduation that we had at the end of last year. And here's some of our graduates, and these are all the dresses that they made coming out of our tailoring program.